Learn how to make Gwin the Ghost decoration for Halloween. Hi there, I'm Cilla from Cilla Crochets, and I'm here to cheer you on throughout your crochet journey, no matter what stage you're at. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can crochet this little Halloween decoration called Gwin the Ghost. Now, Gwyn's pattern is already available on my blog, cillacrochets.com, for free. I will put the link in the description below in case you prefer a written pattern. But in this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step the pattern from the beginning to the end. Let's get started. Alright, so the materials I'm using for this project are, I'm going to try out this Lion Brand Yarns DIY Glow. This is a worsted weight yarn, but I need to let you know that the original Gwyn is made using a light worsted weight yarn, or a DK if you're in the UK. Whereas what I'm going to be using today is in fact an Aran weight or a worsted weight yarn. So we've got this glow in the dark Lion Brand yarn, and then I also have a little bit of pink and a little bit of black from my yarn stash. They're just scrap bits of yarn, but I can tell you that these ones are Rico Design Creative Cotton Aran. I use Rico Design quite a lot, so I know that for sure. Other materials you'll need is because I'm using Aran weight yarn today, I'm going to use a 3.5mm crochet hook, or E if you're in the US. If I was making this with DK cotton yarn, I would use a 2.5mm or a 2.75mm, or C if you're in the US. So if you are using the DK or light worsted yarn, go for a much smaller hook than this 3.5mm I've got. The other materials you need, pretty standard for crochet. You've got some yarn scissors, a tapestry needle, a stitch marker to keep count of your stitches. I've also got some stuffing. I've got a big bag of it sitting on the ground next to me. So I don't know, but this is probably about enough, roughly. Maybe a little bit more, a little bit less, we'll find out. But you will need some stuffing, and you may also want to get some pins. I don't use pins, but I've put it in the pattern just in case you want some help lining up your pieces. So before we get started, just to explain the construction of Gwin the Ghost. So what we're going to do is we're going to create the front and the back as two separate pieces that are worked flat, and then we're going to crochet around the outside, stuff it when we're halfway done, finish crocheting around the outside, create the little loop, and then we've also got the features to add on at the end. So we're crocheting the eyes, the cheeks, and embroidering a wee little mouth there as well. So let's jump right in, grab our crochet hook, and get started with crocheting Gwyn. Okay, so to start off Gwin the Ghost, we'll be starting from the top of his head and crocheting down. So we'll start off by chaining 12. So I'm just going to do a slip knot quickly first, and then we will chain 12. So that is 12 chains. Now for the first row, we're going to start in the second chain from the hook, which is right underneath there, and we're just going to single crochet, that's in US terms, all the way along the chain. So we should end up with 11 single crochets. So I'll start that off here, so just going into the second chain from the hook, and then I'm going to do my first single crochet. So because that is our first one, I'm not going to use a stitch marker for the entirety of this project, but if you want to double check your stitches, which I always highly recommend, just insert that stitch marker into your first single crochet stitch and continue crocheting along the chain. Okay, now we're at the last chain here. And let's count, we should have 11 single crochet. So we've got our stitch marker in there so we know where the end of the row is. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Perfect. Okay, to finish off row 1, we need to chain 1 and turn our work so we're crocheting along in the other direction. So that is our turning chain. The chain that we did doesn't count as a stitch. And now we're going into row 2, which is increase in the first stitch. So that simply means 2 single crochet into the first stitch, then 9 single crochet across. Nine. Now we need one more increase. So I'm going to take out the stitch marker from there and do an increase in the final single crochet on the row. So again, that's just 2 single crochets into this 1 stitch underneath. Okay, then we'll do our turning chain, so chain, and then turn our work back the other way. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do an increase. 1, 2. Now would be a good time to put your stitch marker in if you're going to use one, which I do always recommend. So let me practice what I preach. I am very used to when I work in rows, I rarely use stitch markers because I'm pretty confident about crocheting in rows, but if it's rounds, I always use a stitch marker. But let's pretend you didn't hear that, because I always recommend using a stitch marker to make sure you've got your stitch count correct. So increase in the first stitch, then we're going to 11 single crochet across. So we've got the last single crochet in the row and we're going to increase again. So that's 2 single crochets into the 1 stitch. And now our row 3 should have 15 single crochets in it. So let's just quickly count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. There we go. Okay, so now we need to chain 1 and turn, and we're going on to row 4, 5, and 6, which are all just single crochet across, chain 1, turn, single crochet across, chain 1, turn, and single crochet across. So I'm just going to go on and do those 3 rows, and if you do the same, I'll meet you back here at row 7. Okay, so that is row 6 done, and now we're on to row 7. So the first part of this row is to do 7 single crochet. So I'm going to do that now. We've got 1, 2, 3, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. So that's 2 single crochet into the 1 stitch. And then we're going to do 7 more single crochet across. Now we're on to row 8. For row 8 through to 10, we're also just going to single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. So I will go on and do those 3 rows, and I'll meet you back at row 11. Okay, so that is row 8, 9 and 10 done, and we're up to row 11. So in row 11 we're going to 8 single crochet first, so let's go straight away and do that. Okay, now we will increase in the next stitch. And then 7 single crochet until we reach the end of the row. Now we'll chain and turn. Now we're going to crochet, single crochet across twice. So in row 12 and row 13, all we're doing is single crocheting across, chain, doing our turning chain, and then going back the other way and doing our turning chain. So I'll do that, and I will meet you back at row 14 this time. So that's our row 12 and 13 completed. Now we'll go on to row 14. In this row, we're going to crochet 8 single crochet, an increase in the middle stitch, and then 8 single crochet again. So we've got 8 single crochet, increase in the middle, then 8 at the end. Then we'll chain 1 and turn. So I'll go on and do that now. So that's our first 8 single crochet. We've got an increase in the next stitch, which I'm doing now. There's our increase. And then we've got 8 more single crochet, 1 single crochet in each stitch across. Now for row 15 and 16, all we're doing is the single crochet across, chain 1, turn, single crochet across. So I will go ahead and do those, and I will meet you back at row 17. Now we're up to row 17, and in this row we will 8 single crochet, increase, 9 single crochet, chain 1 and turn. So let's start with the 8 single crochet across. So that's 1 single crochet in each stitch for 8 stitches. So at the end of this row, so row 17, we should have 19 stitches across. So when I finish this very last single crochet in the row, let's quickly count our stitches and make sure we are where we should be. So I'll do the chain and turn first. But here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whoop, I'm gonna hold it there, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, which is exactly what we wanted after row 17. So you'll notice then I didn't count the turning chain. Turning chains generally aren't counted as stitches because they are just allowing us to go up a level essentially to crochet across. So row 18 and 19 is next, and that is simply single crochet across, chain 1, turn, single crochet across and chain 1 and turn. So I will go on and do those now, and I'll meet you back at row 20. Okay, now we're up to row 20. Firstly, I have to apologize. You probably heard my adorable little kitten, he's not a kitten anymore, but my cat Burton, meowing. It's because I have the door to the room that I'm in shut, because if I don't, both of my kitty cats have a tendency to jump up on the desk, which is where I'm doing this tutorial, and it would make it very impossible for me to show you, which is very sad. But my partner is outside with them, don't worry. But they still wanting attention. They don't like missing out on the action. But anyway, let us continue on to row 20. So in row 20, we're going to do 9 single crochet, then an increase in the middle, and 9 single crochet again until we reach the end of the row, and then we will chain 1 and turn. So let's start doing that now. Okay, this is our 9th single crochet, so we should have 1 single crochet in each stitch. Now in the next stitch we're going to do an increase, so that's 2 single crochet into the 1 stitch, and then we'll just do another 9 single crochet. Oh, I'm getting a bit tangled there. 9 single crochet until we reach the end of the row. Now chain 1 and turn, ready for row 21 and row 22, which I bet you have guessed it already. All we're going to do is 1 single crochet in each stitch along, so that is 20 single crochets for the row. And then we will chain 1, turn, and do the same thing again. So that is for row 21 and 22. All we're doing is single crocheting across, chaining 1 and turning. All right, I will continue on with those 2 rows, and I will meet you at row 23 where things get a little bit more complicated. All right, I'll see you soon. Okay, before we go on to row 23, I just want to show you a little comparison. So we can see that the ghost we are making is going to be quite a bit bigger than the original. So this was using DK yarn or light worsted weight yarn if you're in the US, whereas the one we're making is with worsted weight or Aran. This was also made with a 2.5mm crochet hook. If you're in the US, I would recommend using a 2.75 if you're using the light worsted yarn. But in this case, because we're using the worsted yarn, we're using a 3.5mm or E crochet hook. So it does make quite a big difference to the actual size. Where we are up to is here. So we have done the final row now, row 22 of straight, and now we're going to create these little lumpy bits at the end. So we've only got 2 more rows to go, so this is where it gets a little bit trickier. So the first thing we're going to do is single crochet. So we'll single crochet into the next stitch, then we will half double crochet into the next stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now in the next stitch we will double crochet, keeping in mind we're talking about US terms, so this would be a treble stitch, sorry, if you're in the UK. So yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops on your hook, then yarn over again and pull through the other 2 loops on your hook. Okay, now we're going to do another half double crochet. So yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Okay, and then a single crochet again. So a single crochet, that's pretty self-explanatory. All right, so that's your first wee lump, I suppose, the little bit at the bottom of the ghost. So we're going to repeat this stitch combination that we've just done another 3 times. So there's four of them to do. So I'll do the next one slowly again. So we single crochet, then we half double crochet. Okay, now we double crochet. Then we half double crochet again. Ooh, my tension's a little bit tight. Okay, and then we single crochet. Now I just need to give myself a little bit more yarn, but then we're going to repeat that stitch combination 2 more times now. So not many to go, almost there. Okay, let's do this again. Straight through and single crochet in our last stitch. Okay, so that is almost row 23 complete. All we need to do is a chain and turn. So that is the end of row 23. So now we've got another slightly complicated stitch combination. Not too bad, but it will be the last row, I'm sure you'll be happy to hear, of this piece. Remember, there's more to do. But anyway, all right, let's just get a move on and get this done. So single crochet in the first stitch, then half double crochet in the next stitch. Okay, and now we're going to 2 DC, so 2 double crochet in the next stitch. Essentially it's a double crochet increase. So we'll do 1 double crochet, and then we're going to do another double crochet in the same stitch, and then we will half double crochet in the next stitch. We're moving on, and single crochet in the next stitch. So that's the stitch combination we're going to repeat over and over again until we get to the end. So we only need to do it 3 more times. So let's continue on and do that. So single crochet. I don't know what that was going on outside. Probably my 2 kitties chasing each other. Now we're doing, so we've done our first single crochet in the second repeat of that pattern. So we're on to the half double now. Now we need the double crochet increase. So that is 2 double crochets in the one stitch. Then a half double crochet in the next stitch, and a single crochet in the next stitch. Okay, so that's 2 of the stitch combinations complete. You can see we've got much bigger bumps now, which is quite nice. Now this is our third one. So single crochet, half double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the next stitch. Don't forget this is an increase, so sorry, once we've done that one double crochet, we're going to do another double crochet in the same stitch, Now we've got another half double crochet and a single crochet, and now we've got our last repeat. So single crochet, double crochet in the next stitch. Sorry, half double crochet, not a double crochet. That was a half double crochet. Now it's a double crochet and a second double crochet in the same stitch. So double crochet increase, then another half double crochet. All right, almost there. My yarn is a tiny bit stiff at points. I haven't used this yarn before. I am excited to see what it looks like when I've finished. So sorry, we're finishing the final stitch with a single crochet. Just because it's got the glow in the dark properties. I think that's why it's probably not, it's got, I mean, it is fine to work with. It's, you know, not caused really any problems, but it's a little bit stiffer than cotton. I'm used to using cotton. But anyway, that is our first piece complete. It is currently upside down because we crocheted from the top to the bottom, back and forth in rows. So all we need to do now for this piece is cut the yarn and fasten off and sew in all the yarn ends on this piece. So I'm not going to give much of a tail because we don't need the yarn here. So I'm just going to cut it, give it a little bit so I can sew it in properly, and then fasten off by simply doing a chain, but then pulling all the way through and pulling on that to create a little knot. And that is our first ghost piece complete. As I said, I need to sew in the ends, so I will show you how I do that now. Okay, so I'll start with this bottom thread, the one we just fastened off, and I'm just weaving that onto my tapestry needle. Honestly, it doesn't really matter what side you you sew the ends into, because we're working back and forth. Technically, the appearance of this piece, because we haven't used any special stitches, we're using quite basic stitches, it's not going to change the appearance too much. I mean, it does slightly at the bottom, but it doesn't matter too much. So I'm going to do on this side because I can see those bits are a little bit more noticeable than those bits, but really it doesn't matter. All I would say is choose one side where you're going to sew your ends into and do it the same side for both yarn strands. But there we have it. That is our first ghost piece. So we need to make two of these, one for the front, one for the back. So the next step is to follow all of these instructions again. I will run through this with you now, but I will do it a lot quicker. So if you do feel like you need the extra instruction, just go back to the first section of the video. Otherwise, stay with me here and we'll quickly make the second piece for Gwin the Ghost. Alright, so just like before, we'll start off by chaining 12. So you just need to do your slip knot at the beginning and then chain 12. Okay, quite happy with that. So starting in the second chain from the hook, we're just crocheting one single crochet into each chain stitch along the chain. Okay, now we've reached the end of the row. We're just going to chain 1 and turn our work. Then we will increase 9 single crochet into the middle and then increase in the last stitch again. Now we'll increase into this very last stitch of the row. So that is the 2 single crochet into the 1 stitch. Then we'll chain 1 and turn. And we're already on to row 3. Alright, so row 3 is increase in the first stitch, then single crochet into the next 11 stitches, increase in the last stitch, chain 1 and turn. And don't forget to use that stitch marker in your first stitch if that helps you keep place. And then we will increase in the last stitch of the row. Chain 1 and turn. Alright, for row 4 through to 6, so that is 3 rows in total, 4, 5 and 6, we're going to single crochet across, chain 1 and turn. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, I did break my rule and open the door for my kitty cats, and I don't know if you can see, but I've got Burton, my ragdoll cat, who is very, very fluffy, walking across the desk currently. I'm gonna just give you a little preview if I can. Burton! Burton! Bertie! There he is. Alright. Back to... we are up to row 6. Alright, now we're up to row 7, which is 7 single crochet to the middle, and then we're going to increase in the middle stitch, and then 7 single crochet to the end. So I'll just repeat that quickly. 7 single crochet, increase in the middle, and then another 7 single crochet. Then we'll chain 1 and we'll turn to go on to our next row. So now we'll do the increase. And then single crochet to the end of the row. Chain 1 and turn. Now we're on to row 8. Now the next 3 rows, row 8, row 9 and row 10, are simply single crocheting across, chaining 1, turning and repeating that 2 more times. So let's go ahead and do that for row 8, row 9 and row 10. Now we're up to row 11, and in row 11 we're going to single crochet in the next 8 stitches, increase, and then 7 single crochet in the remaining stitches to the end of the row. Then we'll chain 1 and turn. So this one's slightly different. Don't forget, it's 8, increase, 7. Okay, so it's not even. So let's go ahead and crochet row 11. Now we're up to the increase, so 2 single crochet in the 1 stitch. Now 7 single crochet until you get to the end of the row. Now for row 12 and 13, we're doing 2 rows of the same pattern, which is simply single crochet across. So 1 single crochet in each stitch along the row, and then we'll chain 1 and turn. So we'll do that twice. Let's go ahead and do that now. Alright, so we're up to row 14 now, and we're back to even numbers. So we're going to 8 single crochet, increase, 8 single crochet, chain 1 and turn. Now for row 15 and 16, all we're doing is single crocheting across, chaining 1 and turning. So let's just continue on and do those straight away. Now we're up to row 17, and in this row we will 8 single crochet, increase, and then 9 single crochet, chain 1 and turn. So again, not a consistent row, it's a little uneven, so be careful with your numbers. Single crochet in 8 stitches, increase, then single crochet in 9 stitches. Alright, let's get started with that. Alright, so we're up to row 18 and 19, and we're just going to single crochet across, chain 1 and turn twice, so for the 2 rows. Okay, now we're up to row 20. In this row we're back to an evenish set, I should say. So we're doing 9 single crochet, an increase in the middle, and 9 single crochet, chaining 1 and turning our work. So you may have done what I just did, which is completely zoning out and just crocheting. So I'm going to have to undo a couple of stitches here because I have gone too far and I have skipped the increase. So I just thought I would do this with you in case this has happened to you as well. So we'll just count. So we're meant to have 9 single crochet stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I need to undo those 2 stitches, and because this one's meant to be an increase, all I'm going to do is another single crochet in that same stitch, so I don't have to undo that stitch. I just need to do another one in the same stitch. So like that, and there is our increase. And now we can zone out again and do 9 single crochet to the end of the row. Now going on to row 21 and row 22, we are simply single crocheting in each stitch along the row, or chain 1 and turn and do it all again for the 2 rows. So that's row 21 and 22. Alright, so we'll go on to row 23 now, which is a little bit more difficult than the others because we've got some different stitches in this one. So you do a combination of single crochet in 1 stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch, double crochet in the stitch after that, another half double crochet, and then a single crochet. So it's 5 stitches that we're using for that combination, and we're going to repeat that combination 4 times. I'll do it slowly again with you for the first 2 times, and then you can do the last 2 on your own. So let's go ahead and do that. So single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet in the next stitch, half double crochet in the next stitch, and then single crochet in the next stitch. So that's our first stitch combination. We'll do that again. Single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, and single crochet. So that is our first 2. Now if you go on to repeat that pattern 2 more times, we will be at the end of the row ready for our chain. Last single crochet in the row, then we'll chain 1 and turn. And that is row 23 complete. So to go on to row 24, we've got another stitch combination that we'll be repeating 4 times over these little humps, I suppose, over the little bumps at the bottom. So it starts with a single crochet, then we've got a half double crochet in the next stitch, then we have 2 double crochets in the next stitch, so it's a double crochet increase. Okay, and then we've got a half double in the next stitch. There we go, and a single crochet in the next stitch after that. So that is our first stitch combination complete, and it just helps create that additional definition on the little lump at the bottom of the row. So now we've got a second stitch combination. So we've got single crochet again, half double in the next stitch, 2 double crochets in the next stitch after that. So our double crochet increase, half double crochet in the next stitch, and then a single crochet in the next stitch after that. And that's 2 stitch combinations done. So let's repeat that again 2 more times until we get to the end of the row. All right, that's our final single crochet in the row, and this time we don't do a chain because we're at the end of the piece. So all we want to do now is cut the yarn and fasten off our work by simply yarning over, pulling through and pulling the yarn tail all the way through to create that little knot in the end of our piece. Now, like we did with the first piece, we just want to sew our ends into the work. So let's do that quickly. All right, and now we've got our 2 ghost pieces, and we can see, figure out the size that we've weaved them into. So I've decided that the sides where I've done the weaving of the yarn tail, excuse me, that is my hair, of the yarn tail, I've chosen that to be the inside of the piece so we don't see those, and the other side from me is going to be the front. So that is how we are going to sew them together. But first we have some facial features to complete. So we've got to make the cheeks, and we've got to make the eyes, and we're going to start with the easier ones, or should I say the bigger ones, the cheeks, simply because they don't have the little embroidery bit on them. So we'll do those first. Let's get started. All right, so for the cheeks, we will need our pink yarn. So again, I'm using Rico Design Creative Cotton Aran for my pink. I will link to it in the description below. But now we are working in rounds to do the little circular cheeks. So we're going to start by making a magic circle. I'm going to do this quite quickly, but I do have a tutorial on YouTube about making magic circles, so I will put a link to that as well if you do need some help. And all we're going to do is crochet 6 single crochet into the magic circle. Six. There we go, and then we're gonna pull our magic circle tight so it is in fact a circle, and we're going to slip stitch to the first stitch that we did. So we'll keep that yarn tail underneath, and we're just gonna do a slip stitch here. There we go. Alright, and now we will chain 1, ready for round 2. In round 2, we're going to increase in each stitch around. So to do that, we're going to insert our hook into the same stitch where we did the slip stitch, which was the first single crochet in the first round, or the first single crochet we did in the magic circle. And we're going to do 2 single crochet into that 1 stitch. Now I am going to use I am going to use a stitch marker into my first stitch. When you're working in continuous rounds, which means where there's no join, even when there is a join, it is extremely helpful to use a stitch marker, because when you're working in circles, it gets very confusing as to where the start and finish of the piece is. When you're working back in rows, if you're a confident crocheter, You don't necessarily need a stitch marker unless you are working with lots and lots of stitches, like you're working on a garment or something like that. But I don't feel it's necessary if you're working on a small piece like that and you are very confident at crocheting. However, in saying that, everyone's different. If you feel like you need a stitch marker, you absolutely use one. But when you're crocheting in rounds, always use a stitch marker. Anyway, so let's continue on, and we're just going to increase in each of the stitches around. Starting from the stitch marker, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches. So that little stitch that we see there will be the slip stitch we did, and the one that's just before the stitch marker is the chain. So that is why we're not crocheting into either of those. At this point, there's two things you can do. The first thing is you could simply slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round, and then cut your yarn, leaving a longer tail for sewing, and fasten off your work just like we fastened off the end of this. However, I'm going to show you what I recommend for these tiny little individual pieces, which is an invisible fasten off, and it creates a more circular appearance, so you don't have any like knots or anything jutting out of your work, or so it doesn't look wonky essentially. So to do that, firstly I'm going to cut the yarn. So I'm going to leave a longer yarn tail because we need to sew the cheek on, so I'm going to leave about that much. Okay, so you can see roughly that's probably about 40 centimeters. Apologies, I don't know inches. But having a guess, I would say, is that 6 inches? I don't know. I will have to Google that. But what we're going to do is we're going to pull the yarn tail all the way through that stitch. Okay. Right. Now, before I do the invisible fasten off, I'm going to secure my yarn tail. What we're going to do is we're going to weave in the starting yarn tail into the back of the cheek, and we're going to tighten it up just to make sure. See, at the moment there's a tiny little hole in the middle. Even if I pull the yarn tail tight, which I'm going to do, there is a possibility it could still come loose. So what I'm going to do now, weaving in the back, we'll just make sure that it does not come loose. So there's basically no chance of that ever happening. Even if there is a slim chance, I like to be extra secure. So there we go. I've pulled it tight so it's completely shut, and all I'm going to do is sew around the back, then turn around the other way, skip a stitch, and sew the other way, and that just keeps it nice and secure. But I'll fast forward this bit because it is quite boring to watch. Alright, now that is sewn in, I am going to cut it quite close to the end. Just make sure you are not cutting the other yarn tail. Okay, so then that is nice and secure. Now we can work on doing our invisible finish. So from here, what I'm going to do is weave my yarn tail onto my tapestry needle. I'm going to use the bigger one for this one so you can hopefully see. Okay, now what I'm going to do is skip a stitch first. So where our stitch marker is, that is our first stitch. So I'm actually going to put the needle into the stitch after that, and I'm going to take this out so we can see, and I've put the needle all the way into that second stitch there, and I'm going to pull it tight. Now what I'm going to do is work back this way. So what we're doing is we're trying to recreate the look of a single crochet stitch so it looks even. So to do that, we're going to insert our needle into the stitch where we pulled the yarn through, so it was our last stitch in the round. And I'm going to put the needle into the back loop only, so into the middle of the stitch, and we're just going into the back. And then I'm also going to put it into the little line underneath. So that's just to secure it a little bit more. And then I'll pull that through, and I will pull on that yarn tail until that little V shape that we're creating looks consistent in size to the other V's around the circle. Okay, now the only other thing I did not mention, which I want to let you know, is once I've done this, I like putting my yarn into a position where it's easy to start sewing. So from here, I'm actually going to insert it into that under the invisible fasten off, I suppose, the fake single crochet that I created there. And I'm going to leave my yarn tail like that. So then when I'm starting to sew, it's just straight into the next stitch and into the piece. So that is our first cheek completed.
Now you'll need to go and make a second cheek. So either skip back to the cheek instructions, or I'll quickly put some text up on the screen now to remind you what stitches you need to crochet for the cheek.
And there we go. Those are our first two cheek pieces. Now we just have to do the eyes and then some sewing and a little bit of embroidery, and then we get to crochet it all together. Alright, so now we've made the cheek pieces, we've just got to make these little eyes here. So I'm going to use some black yarn. These are really quick. Again, I'm using Rico Design Creative Cotton Iron here, but start with a magic circle and 6 single crochet in the magic circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our 6 done. Pull on the yarn tail to close the magic circle. Now, again, there are 2 options here. You can either slip stitch the first single crochet and fasten off the normal way, cutting your yarn, or you can do what I'm going to do here and do the invisible fasten off again. So I'm not going to slip stitch. I'm actually going to skip the slip stitch. Now cut yarn, leaving a longer yarn tail for sewing. It's only a small piece, so we don't need too much.
And then simply complete your chosen fasten off method.
Before we create our second eye, I should say, let's quickly weave in this yarn tail we have here. So I'm just going to cut that as close as I can without cutting the piece. And now you'll see there's a little white dot here. I've used embroidery thread for this bit and for the mouth when I was working in DK yarn, but I'm simply going to use the yarn that I've got with me today to do these bits. So I'm going to cut a tiny bit of the white glow in the dark yarn. Here we go. Like, we only need a really, really tiny bit. Okay, I'm going to weave it onto a needle. And this bit, of course, is optional. You do not have to do this, but I'm going to go in through 1 stitch here, 1 single crochet, and then I am simply going to skip 1 and go into the 3rd one. And this will create a little line in the eye, which will just give it that little bit of character. And all I'm going to do here is literally tie these bits in a knot. This is where it gets a little bit fiddly, but we're just going to create a little double knot here try and do it as tight as I possibly can. There we go. Ooh, ooh, there we go. And I'm just going to cut as close as I can, not too close to the knot though, so it doesn't come undone, but we don't want it peeking over the edge. So that will hopefully do the trick. There we go. And when we're sewing it on, we'll just make sure that those bits are covered, completely sewed on. But that's our little eye. And now we're going to repeat that process again to get a second eye. Right, so we've got our 2 little eyes, and now it is time to attach them to our front piece. So let's crack on and do that. Okay, so now we are up to creating sewing the little eyes, cheeks to our chosen front piece. Doesn't really matter which side I choose as my front, so I'm just gonna go ahead and choose this one here. The main thing is that you have the side you want facing outwards so that we can see facing up at this point in time, because we are going to attach the eyes and the cheeks, just like this one here. Now, there's no formal instruction on where your eyes and cheeks should go, except to have it similar to this one. So I'm going to use some pins to help me line out my pieces onto the front piece that I've chosen, and I'm going to try and get it looking quite identical to the other Gwin the Ghost I've got here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So from here, all I'm going to do is use a tapestry needle. I am going to use a larger bent tip tapestry needle. You don't have to, you can just use your normal tapestry needle. And I'm going to sew into each of these stitches so we can attach them to the ghost. Now, this does get a little bit repetitive to watch, so I am going to skip past this bit until all pieces are sewn on, but hopefully you've got the idea now where all you're doing is you are inserting your hook into a stitch on the little face piece and into the back of your actual ghost. Okay, so that is our cheeks and our little eyes done. And now all we want to do is embroider a mouth. Now, if you're using my written pattern, you'll know that I actually suggest embroidering the mouth after we've attached the 2 pieces together by crocheting around the edge. But in this video tutorial, I'm going to suggest you embroider the mouth at this point. But I haven't forgotten, before we do that, let's sort out these yarn tails at the back of the piece. So we're going to tie the cheek, this cheek and this eye yarn tail together in a double knot. That will secure it nicely, and cutting the ends so they don't stick out the sides. Then we'll do the same with these 2. And it doesn't interfere between the cheeks, which is where we will do the embroidery for the mouth. These ones are nice and close together as well. There we go. Nice and tight. And that's those. All right, now we want to embroider a mouth. So to do this, again, just as a reminder, I used embroidery thread for the mouth and for the little white dots on the eyes when I was using DK yarn. But since we're using Aran yarn, I am simply going to use a little bit of the Aran yarn to create the mouth on this one. So cut yourself a little bit of the black yarn, you don't need a lot, and thread your tapestry needle that you would like to use. Now all we're doing is we're going to mimic the original Gwin the Ghost mouth. Use your pins to map things out, and once you've made a decision, just go for it. It doesn't need to be exactly the same as mine, because the likelihood of you sewing everything in the exact same place as me is quite slim. So just try and map out your little mouth that way, and it is just a little triangular mouth. So I'm going to take all the pins out. I know where I'm sewing. It's 2 stitches across and 1 in the middle, 1 row down. So I'm going to go straight up into that one. Okay, then across 2 stitches. Okay, and now this is going to be tricky because I want it in the middle of a stitch, not in, there we go. So I've got it here. This is how we create the point. So I'm going to pull this through, then I'm going to go under the line, whoops, like so, and then go back through the exact same place I pulled my needle up through here. Okay, and pull that down, and that will create our little mouth. I really like that. I think that's very cute. So that's our mouth created. Just do the same thing again for your yarn tails of the mouth. I'm just gonna tie those together quite tightly here. And then use my scissors to chop them. And then that is our little face created. Okay, now the only part left for us to do is to start joining the 2 pieces of the ghost together by crocheting around the sides, and we need to stuff part way through. So before we get started, I'm going to quickly give you a rundown on the stitch counts. So firstly, we'll start in this corner. We'll do 2 single crochets in any corner stitch. So that is here, 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 and here. So that's where we'll do our increases. Going along the sides, we're going to aim for 1 single crochet in each row going down. And then obviously we do the 2 single crochet in the corner. So along this edge, we aim for 1 single crochet in each stitch along. 2 single crochet in that corner again 1 single crochet in each row going up, 2 single crochet in the corner. Then we're going to 1 single crochet in each chain. So remember we started with a chain of 12, but our first round of single crochet, there are 11 stitches. So what we're going to do here is crochet 5 stitches, and then when we do the 6th stitch, we'll crochet a chain, and that will be our hanging loop. And then we'll crochet back in the same stitch, finish with a final 5 single crochet, and slip stitch to our very first starting single crochet stitch. And then we'll simply cut the yarn, fasten off, and weave in any loose yarn tails. So the one thing I didn't mention then was where we will stop to stuff. And I recommend either stopping literally at the halfway point, so you've got 2 sides done, and then continuing to stuff again when you get about up to here or here, just so we can make sure everything's fairly even in the stuffing front. So let's get started. Now, because this is pretty straightforward and quite boring to watch, also I'm just really conscious about how long this YouTube video is, I am going to meet you back in the first place where we start to stuff the ghost. So get 2 sides done, and I will meet you back here in a moment. So now let's get our stuffing out and start stuffing just a little bit along this edge, because that's going to be the tricky bit to get to after we start crocheting up along this side. So I'm going to get the stuffing out, breaking it up just to try and ensure that no bits are lumping together when we put it into the shape. So let's try and separate it. Okay, and then I am just going to push it to that corner, because I think these bottom bits from memory looking at this one, sorry, just so you can see. These bits were the harder bits to get to, so I'm just gonna try and ensure this bottom bit is stuffed a little bit. And because this is a decoration, it's not a pillow, it's not really a soft toy, it is just a fun puffy decoration. I don't want it stuffed too much. We're going to continue crocheting, sorry, along this long edge. So we're going to put 2 single crochet into that next stitch, considering we're counting this as our corner stitch here. So 2 single crochet.
And then we're just going to continue crocheting across this edge. I will stop when we come to the corner where we need to do an increase, because we'll add some extra stuffing to our decoration at that point. So I will see you back very shortly.
Okay, now here I'm gonna do our increase, and here I'm going to add extra stuffing. So let's stop here. Now we can feel, where's it missing stuffing? I want it a little bit chunkier than that. Now we're going to crochet the top shut and create the decoration hanging loop. So we really just want to roughly stop halfway across the middle of this line here. So I'm going to just go straight in and start single crocheting along. Now this next one looks like the middle, so I'm going to single crochet 1, and then I'm going to chain 20. You can chain more or less, but the thing I want you to check is what we're going to be doing is we're going to insert our hook into the exact same stitch, and that is going to end up being the loop that you hang that you can use to hang the decoration. So if you want that loop longer or shorter, you either chain a few more onto the chain or just frog a little bit so there's less chains, and that's how you can adjust the loop size. I'm happy with that size of the loop being 20, so I'm just going to continue and do another single crochet in the same stitch that I did the first single crochet in, and then I'm going to continue along the row, crocheting in both sides of the ghost. And now we're at the end. I am simply going to slip stitch into the very first chain on the first side. So if you can hopefully see that all right, we're going to slip stitch into that one,
Now I'm going to cut my yarn here, not too much because we don't need to do any sewing. And I am going to do a normal fasten off here. Okay, so I've got a normal fasten off. Now, the only thing left to do is, firstly, you might want to just squish your little ghost a little bit to try and spread out that stuffing evenly. Now we just need to sew in these loose threads. And that is our Gwin the Ghost complete. Okay, now for the really big reveal. We need to see if this baby glows. So I'm going to take it to the darkest room in my house, which happens to be my ensuite bathroom because it is still daylight here in Scotland. So give me a second. Let's go in the ensuite and see if this little Gwin glows in the dark. And the results are in. Gwin does glow in the dark. Unfortunately, my camera wouldn't let me actually video the glow in the dark yarn. I don't know why, but it just wouldn't show up when I put recording on. However, I could take some photos. So here's a photo with the proof. And I am seriously so impressed with how well the yarn glows. I didn't expect it to be as strong as it is, and I will say it is better with the naked eye than it is on film. So if you're looking for a glow-in-the-dark yarn, I now recommend Lion Brand's DIY Glow. It works wonders. And there you have it, a Gwin the Ghost of your very own, hopefully. I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial video. It is the first one of its kind that I have ever personally made. I've got loads and loads of free patterns on my website. That is cillacrochets.com. And this little one was my Halloween release for last year, 2023. Now I am planning on doing more of these crochet type full-length tutorials of my patterns. So if you did enjoy it, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more updates. But more importantly, I'd really like your feedback. If there's anything I missed or anything that you found helpful, any kind of feedback you can give me, please do comment below, because I would like to get better and better at this each time I release a new full-length pattern tutorial. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I hope you've made a little Gwin the Ghost. And if you have, please do take a photo of your make and share it on social media and tag me at Cilla Crochets. I would really love to see your creations and share them with the community. But I honestly get an absolute kick whenever I see anyone making my patterns. It is the best part of pattern designing for me. Anyway, until next time, happy crocheting!